Hello everyone, we are now here in Module 12 entitled The Physical Development of Infants and Toddlers. Let us first know what is infants and what is toddler. Infants are baby, a very young child that can neither walk nor talk. In an early stage of development, just the beginning. While on the other hand, toddlers, a young child who is learning to walk, as you can see here in the pictures provided. Now, we have here an activity. Look at the pictures from the left to the right are the development of the fetus or infant going to the toddler. As we can see here, what can you observe on their head, on their body, and the way it changes all throughout the development as the baby grows into an infant. Now, to our observation, we can observe the cephalocaudal pattern, the postnatal growth from conception to 5 months when the head grows more than the body. The greatest growth always occurs at the top or the head. The infants learn to use their upper limbs before their lower limbs. The same pattern occurs in the head area. The top parts of the head, such as the eyes and the brains, grow faster than the lower part, such as the jaw. Then another observation is the proximodistal pattern. The prenatal growth from 5 months to birth, when the fetus grows from the inside of the body, going outwards. The muscular control of the trunk and the arms comes earlier as compared to the hands and fingers. A motor development refers to the development of motor skills from the center of the body outward. That's a proximodistal pattern. Now, let's have the physical developments of infants and toddlers. Let's proceed to the height and weight. It's normal for newborn babies to drop 5 to 10% of their body weight within a couple of weeks of birth. It is due to the baby's adjustment to the neonatal feeding. Once they adjust to sucking, swallowing, digesting, they grow rapidly. Because we all know that when the babies are still inside their mother, they were fed through the connection between their mother, the tube that connects their mother and their baby. The breast feed babies are typically heavier than the bottle feed babies through the first 6 months. After 6 months, breastfeeded babies usually weigh less than the bottle feed babies. Because as what I've said by the advertisement, breast milk is always the best for babies. In general, an infant's length increased by about 30% in the first 5 months. A baby's weight usually triples during the first year but slows down in the second year of life. Low percentage are not a cause of alarm, as long as infants progress along natural curve of steady development. Because there are child that can easily develop while others are so advanced when it comes to development, but there's nothing to worry as long as we can see that there is a pattern of natural development within their growth. Now, let's see the brain development. Among the most dramatic changes in the brain in the first 2 years of life are the spreading connection of dendrites to each other. Remember, neurons, dendrites, axons, and synapses. Those are the things or the small parts within the brain of a person. We have here myelination or myelinization, the process by which an axon are covered and insulated by layers of fat cells, begins prenatally and continues after birth. The process of myelinization or myelination increases the speed at which information travels through the nervous system. That's why as time passes by, as the babies grow, they can be able to understand things and process information little by little as they grow. At the birth, the newborn brain is about 25% of its adult weight. By the second birthday, the brain is about 75% of its adult weight. So we see that it triples. Shortly after birth, a baby's brain produces trillions more connections between neurons than it can possibly use. The brain eliminates connections that are seldom or never used. The infant's brain is literally waiting for experiences to determine how connections are made. So as it said earlier, there were trillions of connections formed within the brains of the babies, but not all those connections were used or practiced or put into use by the babies. So the things that are seldomly used will be eliminated, and the remaining will guide the toddlers or infants and to discover experiences to determine the connections how are made. Motor development. Along this aspect of motor development, infants and toddlers begin from reflexes and gross motor skills and fine motor skills. So from reflexes, it develops to motor skills, then finally it becomes a fine motor skill. Let's deal with reflexes first. The newborn have some basic reflexes which are of course automatic and serve as survival mechanism before they have the opportunity to learn. Many reflexes which are present at birth will generally subside with a few months as the baby grows and matures. So even the newly born babies have their own reflexes, and it changes or it develops as the baby grows or mature. Here are some common reflexes that the baby has. The first is the sucking reflexes. Of course, the sucking reflexes is initiated when something touches the roof of infant's mouth. Infants have a strong sucking reflex which help to ensure they can latch out bottle or breast. Sucking the reflex is very strong. Some infants that may need to suck on a pacifier for comfort. So on the newly born babies, it is very common or it's natural where they have sucking reflex because they need it in order to feed themselves from the bottle and from the breast of their mother. Of course, but there are some cases that the babies have stronger sucking reflex that in order to satisfy themselves, they need to suck the pacifier or others suck on their tongue. Another one is the rooting reflex. The rooting reflex is most evident when an infant cheek is stroked. The baby responds by turning his or her hand in the direction of which touch and opening their mouth for feeding. We observe it when the babies are hungry, they open their mouth, something like that. The other one is gripping reflex. Babies will grasp anything that is placed in their palm. The strength of this grip is strong, and most babies can support their entire weight in their grip. Do you try to put your hands on the palms of the baby? From my experience, when I put my hands, especially my thumb, on the palm of the baby, they grip it, and their grip was very strong, and it made me feel happy. The curling reflex. When the inner sole of the baby foot is stroked and the front responds by curling his or her toes. When the outer sole of baby foot is stroked, the infant will respond by spreading out their toes. The startle or motor reflex, infants will respond to sudden sound or movements by throwing their arms and legs out. Throwing their heads back, most infants will usually cry when startled and proceed to pull their limbs back into their bodies. The gallant reflex. The gallant reflex is shown when the infant's middle or lower back is stroked next to the spinal cord. The baby will respond by curving his or her body toward the side which is being stroked. The tonic neck reflex. The tonic neck reflex is demonstrated in infants who are placed on their abdomens whenever side the child's head is facing the limbs on the side will straighten while opposite limbs will curl. Let's observe the lifespan development of infants and toddlers. Though it's blurred, we can see here that this one is an infant learning to crawl. Then it slowly develops the ability to crawl, and little by little to help themselves balance by gaining support from the walls or the crib until they learn to stand on their own with their own feet without the support or holding on the walls or the crib, and then till they learn to walk. The gross motor skill. It is always a source of excitement for parents to witness the dramatic changes in the infant's first year of life. This dramatic motor development is shown in the babies unable to even lift their heads, to being able to grab things off the cabinet, to chase all the ball, to walk away from the parents. Even if you ask your parents when you were still young, you know that when it was your first time to learn how to stand on your own, how to walk on your own, to run, to do things that is greater than what you have done when you were still a little baby. That was a very precious and happy moment of them. Fine motor skill are skills that involve a fine use of small muscle controlling the hand, fingers, and thumb. The development of these skills allows one to be able to complete tasks such as writing, drawing, and botany. The ability to exhibit fine motor skill involves activities that involves precise eye-hand coordination. The development of reaching and grasping becomes more refined during the first 2 years of life. Initially, infants show only crude shoulder and elbow movements, but later they show wrist movements, hand rotation, and coordination of the thumb and forefinger. So, we see here the development from the inner going to the outward of the body. Then we have here the sensory and perceptual development. The newborn senses the world into which he or she is born through. His or her senses of vision, hearing, touch, taste, and smell. As he or she advances physically, his or her sensory and perceptual ability also develop. For us to be enlightened and to learn more about this certain topic, let us hear our expert psychologist right on the line. Let's ask our questions to him and let's hear him. Wait lang. Wait. Wait. Paano ito?
newborn's vision is about 10 to 30 times lower than normal adult vision. By 6 months of age, vision becomes bettered by the first birthday. The infant's vision approximates that of an adult. Banks and Saplatek, 1983, cited by Santrak 2002. Infants look at different things for different lengths of time. In an experiment conducted by Robert Pants, 1963, cited by Santrak 2002, it was found out that infants prefer to look at patterns such as faces and concentric circles rather than at color or brightness. Based on this result, it's likely that pattern perception has an innate basis. Sandcraft 2002. Among the first few things that babies learn to recognize is their mother's face, as mother feeds and nurses them. The sense of hearing in an infant develops such before the birth of the baby. When in the womb, the baby hears his or her mother's heartbeats, the grumbling of his or her stomach, the mother's voice and music. How soothing it must have been for you to listen to your mother's lullaby. Infant sensory thresholds are somewhat higher than those of adult, which means that stimulus must be louder to be heard by a newborn than by adult. Young infants who were breastfed showed a clear preference for smelling their mother's breast pad. When they were 6 days old, these preferences did not show when the babies were only 2 days old. This shows that it requires several days of experience to recognize their mother's breast pad odor. They do feel pain. Newborn males show a higher level of cortisol, an indicator of stress, after a circumcision than prior to the surgery. Tadio et 1997, cited by Santrak 2002. Babies respond to touch. In the earlier part of this module on motor development, you learn that a newborn automatically sucks an object placed in his or her mouth, or a touch of the cheeks makes the newborn turn his or her head toward the side that was touched in apparent effort to find something to suck. In a study conducted with babies only 2 or more, babies made different facial expressions when they tasted sweet, sour, and bitter solutions. Rosenstein and Ulster 1988, cited by Sandrock 2000. When saccharin was added to amniotic fluid of a near-term fetus, increased swallowing was observed. This indicates that sensitivity to taste might be present before birth. Intermodal perception is the ability to relate, connect, and integrate information about 2 or more sensory modalities, such as vision and hearing. In a study conducted by Speckle and Ostley, 1979, it was found out that as early as at 3.5-month-old, infants look more at their mother when they also heard her voice, and longer at their father when they also heard his voice. This capacity for intermodal perception, or ability to connect information coming through various modes, gets sharpened considerably readily through experience.
Well, thank you very much, sir, for participating in our program here. We hope thank you for enlightening our minds and answering our question. We hope for working with you. And later. Now let's proceed what infants and toddlers can do physically. Domain: physical health, well-being, and motor development. Physical health. Standard 1. The children demonstrate adequate growth, weight, height, head circumference. And the standard 2. The child has adequate sensory system to participate in daily activities. From 0 to 6 months, here are the things that are expected for them to do. Startles to loud sound, visually follow a moving object from side to side, visually follows a moving object up and down, react to pain by crying, withdraws or react with surprise when in contact with something cold, reacts with pleasure or smiles or relaxed expression when he or she tastes something delicious, and reacts by making a face, frown, grimaces when he or she tastes something he or she doesn't like. In 7 to 12 months, they react with pleasure when he or she smells something nice, reacts by making face when he or she smells something false. In standard 3, the child has adequate stamina to participate in daily activities. They pushes or pulls moderately heavy objects like chairs and large boxes, and they walk without tiring easily. From 13 to 18 months, they play without tiring easily, able to keep pace with playmates, participate actively in games, outdoor plays, and other exercises. From 19 to 24 months, sustain physical activities like dancing, outdoor games, swimming, for at least 3 to 5 minutes. We have the motor skills development, or the gross motor skills. In standard 1, the child shows control and coordination of body movements involving large muscle groups. From 0 to 6 months, they hold head steadily, move arms and legs equally to reach a dangling object, rolls over, bounces when held standing, briefly bearing weight on legs, sits with support, and stating to crawl but not yet very good at this. Starting to crawl but not yet very good at this. From 7 to 12 months, they can sit steadily without support, creeps or crawls with ease as primary means of moving around. A standard stands without support. It stands from sitting position without any help, squat from the standing position with ease, stands from the standing position with ease, bends over easily without failing, stands from a bent position without falling, walks sideways by holding onto the sides of crib or furniture, walks with one hand held. From 13 to 18 months, walks without support, walks backwards, walks up the stairs with hand held 2 feet on each step, walks downstairs with hand held 2 feet on each step, jumps in place, climbs into steady elevated surface like bed, adult's chair, or banco, etc. Kicks a ball but with a little control of direction, throws a ball but with a little control at a direction, throws a ball but with a little control of speed, runs without tripping or failing, maintains balance, walking on a low, narrow ledge between two lines without assistance, moves with music when he hears it, can move body to imitate familiar animals, can move body to imitate another person or TV character, like animes, cartoons, something like that. In 19 to 24 months, walks up the stairs with altering feet without help, walks down the stairs with altering feet without help, kicks a ball with the control of direction, throws a ball with the control of direction, and same thing with the control of speed. Now we have motor skills development in fine motor skills. In the standard one, the child can control and coordinate hand-finger movements. From 0 to 6 months, hands open most of the time. Bring both hands together towards dangling object or toy. Uses either hands interchangeably to grasp object. Uses all 5 fingers in ranking motion to get food, toy, placed on a flat surface. Grasps object with the same hand most of the time, or hand preference emerging. From 7 to 12 months, they pulls toy by string. Bangs 2 large blocks together, picks up objects with thumbs and index finger, grabs and transfer object from hand to hand, grabs object with the same hand all the time, indefinite hand preference established. 13 to 18 months, pulls a small object in out of the container, unscrew lids, unwarp candy or food, hold stick, pencil or crayon with palmar grip. Example, all 5 fingers wrap around the pencil. In 19 to 24 months, colors with stroke going out of the lines. The personal care and hygiene, activities of daily living. In standard 1, the child participate in basic personal care routines. From 0 to 6 months, they suck and swallow milk from breast or bowel. Begins to take complementary or semi-solid foods by the end of months. 6 months. Keep reasonably still while being dressed, undressed, and while diaper is being changed. From 7 to 12 months, hold spitting bottle by himself, helps hold cup for drinking, chew solid foods well, feed itself with finger foods, scoop with a spoon with spillage. Then from 13 to 18 months, we have here feed self with assistance, feed self using finger to eat rice, viands with spillage, feed self using spoon with spillage, no longer drinks from feeding bowl, drinks from cup unassisted, participates when being dressed by lifting arms or raising legs, pulls down gathered short pants, underpants or panties, removes shoes, sandals, informs caregivers of the need to move his bowel so he or she can be brought to comfort room, takes a bath with assistance, brushes teeth after meals with assistance from adult, washes and dries hands under the adult supervision, and washes dries face with assistance of an adult. From 19 to 24 months, we have here gets drink for self unassisted, removes loose sandal, removes socks, inform caregiver of the need to urinate so he or she can be brought to the comfort room, goes to the designated place to urinate but sometimes wets his or her pants, goes to the designated place to move his or her bowel but sometimes still soles his or her pants, goes to the designated place to move his or her bowel but needs help with wiping or washing, brushes teeth after meals with adult supervision, washes and dries face under adult supervision. We have here the language or expressive language. In standard 1, the child is able to use words and gestures to express his thoughts and feelings. From 0 to 6 months, makes gurgling, cooling, babbling, or other vocal sounds. Uses gestures, example, stretching his or her arms, pointing to indicate he or she wants. 7 to 12 months, repeats the sounds produced by others. Saying meaningfully words like Papa, Mama refers to a specific person. Uses animal sounds to identify animals like meow, meow for a cat. Uses environmental sounds to identify objects, events in the environment. Boom for thunder. From 13 to 18 months, speaks in a single word. Say yes, no appropriately. Use words accompanied by gestures to indicate what he or she wants. Respond to simple questions with single words. From 19 to 14 months, uses pronouns, uses possessive pronouns. Say what he or she wants without accompanying This with gestures, attempts to converse even if he cannot be clearly understood. Then, pre-reading and pre-matching. Standard 1, this child is able to match identical objects, colors, shapes, and symbols. From 7 to 12 months, able to match two identical objects like spoons, 2 spoons, and 2 balls. 19 to 24 months matches identical objects and matches identical pictures. And that's all. Thank you for listening. We hope to see you again on our next lesson. Just subscribe on our YouTube channel right here. Thank you.